Right? It's a time of intense tribulation. And it also anchors in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in relation to what? What's known as the marhala, the stage of gutha'iyya. Which gutha is what? It's from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said that the will converge upon you. Tatada'a alaykum al-umam. Right? The nations will converge upon you. Kama tatada'a al-aklati ila qassatiha. Just as they take, like people come to a meal and just partake of the meal, whatever it is they want to take from the meal. Right? The analogy is what? That the Muslims are going to be in a state of weakness. Okay, the analogy is that the Muslims are going to be in a state of what? Of weakness. So then the companions ask the question, because for them the only thing they can take, they're going to be overwhelmed by numbers, isn't it? Because we spoke about the nature of their rajula, their manhood. And so they said, Ya Rasulullah, are we kathra or killa? Are we in diminutive in numbers? He says, no, antum kathra. You will be profuse in numbers. Walakin ka gutha as-sayl. You're going to be like the foam on the sea, carried as it so pleases. Right? Why? And he goes on to say, fi qulubikum al-wahn. Right? Why? Because in your hearts there'll be this concept of wahan. And when he's asked what was wahan, hubb ad-dunya wa karahiyat al-maut. Right? A love of this ephemeral, fleeting world, and a distaste when it comes to the concept of death. Right? Like companions when they were faced with death, like Abdullah ibn Hudhafa, when the individual, the king who caught them, the contingent and the army, and they threatened to take their lives, right? Meaning renounce your faith or we'll take your life. What did he say? That's what we're hoping for. Right? Longed for death. But there's a time now when we mention death, people don't want to hear about it. It's abhorrent to us. Right? And likewise, in the same hadith, what did the Prophet say? That Allah will remove ar-ru'ab fi qulub aduwikum. He will remove fear from the hearts of the enemy, of your enemy. So there's no fear of the Muslims, right? They're profuse in number, they're immersed in dunya, right? And they have a detestment when it comes to the concept of what? Meaning, when we speak about death, what does it mean? Meeting Allah, right? Meeting Allah. And Allah longs to meet the one who longs to meet Him. And mafhum mukhalafa, the contrasting understanding, likewise holds ground. So the context of the Mahdī is a context of trial and tribulation. And it's a context where we're going to see that it's people with hearts, right? Hearts that have been fashioned and crafted by God and the men of God to stand firm at a time of tribulation. Okay? But like we took those details of the Dajjal description, where he was born, ila akhirihi, likewise it's important to know what the descriptions of the Mahdī. Okay? And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said what? He says, Ismuhu yuwati ismi. That his name is the same as my name. Wa ism abihi ism abi. And likewise the name of his father is the name of my father. So the Mahdi's name is Muhammad, and in certain narrations he's referred to as what? Ahmad, which we'll take in hadith, right? That Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. Okay, his title, the common title, like we just mentioned, the head of the subject is what? Al-Mahdi, from Hidayah, the one who is guided, right, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and guided not in a sense that is ilham, like Allah inspires him directly. Hence we're going to see, for example, that there will be no more religious schools, right? He is the school. Okay, so Al-Mahdi, the one who is guided, and likewise he's referred to as what? Al-Jabir. Okay, Al-Jabir in Arabic has different meanings. They say, why is he referred to as Al-Jabir? Jabir literally can mean from one aspect to mend or fix. Right? When you study the books of law, there's a thing called Ahkam al-Jabira, the rulings of the cast. Meaning when you have to put a cast on your limb, what's the rulings of making wudu and tayammum or the like? So it's called Jabira. Why? Yajbir qulub al-ummah. He will mend and rectify and bring together the hearts of the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Jabir has another meaning, does it not? Right? The one who subjugates. Why? Because he will subjugate the enemies, the tyrannical rulers, the kings of his era, and they will all come unto his fold. All right. So his title, his name is Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. His title, they say, is Al-Mahdi, and likewise they refer to him as Al-Jabir in a hadith, and we just explain what those words mean. His kunya is Abu Abdullah, which is not mentioned here, and his birthplace in the dominant opinion is what? Mawliduhu فإنه يولد بالمدينة. Okay, the not vast majority, the source for the majority of the ahadith in relation to what? The signs of the end of time and the fitan is from the teacher of Imam al-Bukhari, Nu'aym ibn Hammad, in his book Kitab al-Fitan, the Book of Tribulations. So he obviously predates, he's older than, he's the teacher of Imam al-Bukhari. So that's the source for the majority as a primary source for the ahadith in relation towards the end of time is the book of Nu'aym ibn Hammad. And so it's from there that he says that his mawlid he's born in Medina. Imam al-Qurtubi has in his Tadhkirah, which again we've mentioned this book before. It's a profound book speaking again about the end of times. A Tadhkirah means what? The reminder. Right? He speaks about the books. There's a hadith he mentioned about what? That towards the end of time will come a day where people pick up the Mus'haf. Right? وَصَفَّةٌ بَيْضَاء, and all of its pages are white. So white. رُفِيَ al-Quran. The Quran has been raised. Right? Ordinarily it means from what? The hearts and the breasts of men and women. Okay? But there's a narration that he brings that actually the books themselves, all the pages are white. So in this book he says what? That the Mahdi, yulidu min bilad al-Maghrib, which I've put here as West Africa or Morocco, depending on what we understand for Maghrib to mean. The Magharaba literally means the West. Okay, where the word Gharb, West, comes from. And so his name is Muhammad ibn Abdullah. His title is Al-Mahdi or Al-Jabir. His lineage is likewise from Lady Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha. And again, there's narrations that he's what? Either from the line of Al-Hasan or the line of Al-Hussein. May Allah be pleased with both of them. The majority of the hadith say that he's Hassani. Okay, that he's rhymes to Sayyidina, he's from the lineage, the lineage of Sayyidina Hassan. May Allah be pleased with them all. Ameen. Okay, and just as we took the physical attributes of the Dajjal, likewise they know the physical attributes of the Mahdi. And what's mentioned in some of the books is what? A lot of his physical descriptions conform to what? The physical descriptions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the ones that we've mentioned here are ones which are not of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That he's Adam, okay? That he's dark complexioned, right? Darbun, he's slim. He has a khal fi khaddihi al-ayman, like a beauty mark or mole on his right cheek. And remember, when we did in the lessons of the Shama'il, we said what? That prophets have inward and outward signs. And the signs of prophets was what? Shamma, a black beauty mark or mole on their right hand. Apart from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who had the seal of prophecy. Okay? So here the Mahdi, in terms of his sign, is having what? A black mole on his right cheek. Yudi wajhuhu. And those that come into contact with him will know the illumination of his face. And here we have that what? That's akin to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Kath al-lahya, he will have a profuse or a thick beard. Akhal al-aynain, his eyes will be naturally antimonious, like kuhl, like the eyes of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Buraq al-thanaya, right? Something again unique, because when he manifests as the Mahdi, there'll be certain things that will be bestowed upon him, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That we know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam smiled, between the gap in his teeth, what would emanate? Light. And that's how they define or describe the Mahdi. Buraq al-thanaya. Okay? La ilaha illa Muhammad Rasulullah. Fi lisanihi thiqal, which is again, that's something which is at odds with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Which I've translated as like a slight speech impediment. It means like he has a heavy tongue. That's a way of saying he has a slight speech impediment. And then they speak about what he does when he speaks. La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah. But the majority of his descriptions in conformity to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And they say that what? You see people, they mention about 35 people in the books of the Shama'il who had a physical resemblance to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they speak about what? Of those 5 had a striking resemblance to him. But when they comment on the others, right, some of them say what? That people will over time look more like him based on what? Love. That's part of it, yeah. Because loving is embodying and imitating, isn't it? Right? That just the deep love and embodiment and personification of the sunnahs of the Prophet, now they will start to physically look like him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's no doubt in terms of the heart of the Mahdi, whose heart he's connected to. So that manifests in a physical reality on his blessed face. Imam Muhammad ibn Arabi speaks about in Futuhat al-Makkiyah. He gives like a short synopsis of the Mahdi. So the first thing he says, he goes, يَنْفَخُ الرُّوحِ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ. Okay, we spoke about what? Trying times, right? A time of what? Immense injustice and inequity. And he comes and he revives and breathes the spirit of faith back into Islam in and of itself. But the challenging time is what? يَدَعِ الْجِزْيَةِ وَيَحْكُمْ وَيَدْعُ إِلَى اللَّهِ بِالسَّيْفِ. Right? There's no jizya. There's no tax that's paid. Right? It comes with the sword. And we're going to see when we speak about like the great wars that take place, the nature of what those wars are like. Right? Wars that we've never seen before in relation to the loss of life. So he comes with the sword, right? يَرْفَعْ الْمَذَاهِبْ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. There's no legal schools. There's no Hanafi, Shafi'i. You know, I laugh because the Hanafis claim what? What do the Hanafis claim? That the Mahdi is Hanafi. It's maktub in their books. Allah yahdihim, say Ameen. Where's Faisal when you need him, right? Sheikh Harun asked me over this program. He goes, are there any books in the Shawafi that say that the Mahdi is Shafi? I said no. I go, I'm sure it has to be this. Someone said to me, from Sheikh Muhammad Darwish was there from Damascus. He goes, this meaning what's he talking about? The Mahdi being Shafi. Yeah. When the Mahdi comes, there is no madhab, right? There is no madhab. Okay, and this is what we mean about what being, because we can't take away from the high spiritual attachment of the Imams to Allah alongside their legal erudition, right? But the Mahdi's quote unquote rulings are what? Inspired. Okay, so there's no madhab, there's no Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, or Hanbali, or whatever madhabs you will follow. Yeah, Croydoni either, right? So, but what's interesting is what? What's interesting is the next point that Imam Nu'aym ibn Haddad brings. لَيْسَ لَهُ عُدُوٌ مُبِينٌ إِلَى الْفُقَهَاءِ خَاصَّةً. Right? The apparent challenges or enemy that he will have are the fuqaha, are the jurists. Okay? But we have to understand what that means. But look what he goes on to say. لَوْلَا السَّيْفِ بِيَدِهِ لَأَفْتَى الْفُقَهَاء بِقَتْلِهِ. That if he didn't come with military strength, literally the sword in his hand, the fuqaha would have given a ruling to take his life. Right? Which fuqaha are they speaking about here? Because obviously the fuqaha, the people of the legal jurists, are no doubt a blessing for the ummah. So say that again.
There's a hadith, right, where it says of 3 jurists who are in hellfire.
Yeah, that's more to do with the qadi. The hadith is about the qadi, the judge, and the judge is actually in relation to in relation to the rulings that they give. Okay, here they're speaking about fuqaha, like you call them, government scholars, right? People that will give legal verdicts to the masses to please who? The tyrannical leaders. All right, and they say in relation to the people that he quote unquote takes first are those types of people. Subjugates them first and foremost, those fuqaha who sided with what? Gave legal verdicts based on what the tyrannical rulers desired. We see this in our time as well. Okay, then what? يُبَايِعُهُ الْعَارِفُونَ بِاللَّهِ. Those that give him the bay'ah, those that give him the pledge are what? The salihin, the men and women of Allah whose hearts are connected to this faith in the very spiritual sense. Min ahl al-haqa'iq, from the people who know realities, and shuhud wa kashf. They will know him by virtue of what? Unveilings. Okay? Because the Mahdi, a sign of the Mahdi is what? Not knowing that he's the Mahdi. Okay? Which means what? It means that we know that people will educate him, rear him, teach him, train him. They know he's the Mahdi. But the Mahdi himself doesn't know he's the Mahdi. And that's a sign of the Mahdi. But the people of Allah know exactly who he is. The people of Allah will be training him. The people of Allah will be educating him. The people of Allah will be rearing his heart Okay, so he's in preparation for this great pledge which takes place. He has what's known as wuzara, like ministers, and there will be 9 in number, and they speak about their descriptions as well. That none of them, not, most, if not all of them, are non-Arab, but they all speak Arabic. Okay, min biladin shatta, from different and diverse lands. Wahum, some say at tis'a, 9, and some say 11. Okay, wahum ala aqdam as-sahaba, and they will be upon the firm footholding of the companions. Because just as we speak about the Dajjalic system and the like, likewise the Mahdi has to have a Mahdic people and a Mahdic system around him. So there will be people who are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the path of the companions, which will class as his what wuzara. And in a hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke about what khayru qurun qarni, that the best of generations is my generation. ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يُلُونَهُمْ, then those who follow them. ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يُلُونَهُمْ. Right? So the first 3 generations. But in another tradition, he says what? And when he says that the 3 generations are the best, he says what? Tatra, that they will follow one after another. وَوَاحِدْ فُرَادَ, and there'll be one which is the best of generations after them, which is not in succession of those 3. So in that hadith, they say what? What's that generation? That's the generation of the Mahdi. Okay, so we have 3 in succession: the Prophet's generation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the generation thereafter, and then the generation after that. And there's one generation that the Prophet said what? That will be independent from those 3, i.e. not in succession. And ulama say that that generation is the people of who? The people of Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the Mahdi. Okay, from the signs of his emergence. They say that a mountain of gold will be found at the Euphrates River. And the Prophet in Sahih Bukhari, when he said, he goes that Furat yahsir, meaning like the Euphrates will recede. Okay, and when it recedes, gold will be found. But the Prophet said what? Yahsiru an kanzin min dhahab, faman hadarahu falat ya'khudh minhu shay. But for those who are in and around that space, right, do not take 1 iota from it, because in the hadith we took last week about the Dajjal, how he will have the treasures of the globe will come forth for him, right? And we spoke about certain times wealth is a blessing, like during the times of Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam or the like, and certain times it can be a curse. So when gold manifests, when the river recedes and gold comes forth, the Prophet gave a specific order: what? Don't partake of that. Don't partake of that wealth. Okay. Another sign of his emergence, which is yet to happen: a lunar eclipse on the first night of Ramadan and a solar eclipse on the 15th night of Ramadan. Okay. So a lunar on the beginning. I believe we've almost had it the other way around though. We've had a solar followed by a lunar. Right? But thus far we haven't had where there's a lunar eclipse which occurs on the first night and then a solar eclipse on the 15th. 2 lunar eclipses additionally which take place in another hadith happen in the month of Ramadan. Wildfires particularly emerging from from the east, and then they give durations over 7 or 9 nights. A particular darkness overwhelming the sky, and then one thing that everyone will hear is what? The nida. And when does the nida take place? When does the proclamation, a global call comprehended by everyone irrespective of their tongues, irrespective of their language, everyone will understand the call, kad ana waqtul Mahdi, that the time has come now for the Mahdi. When does it happen? We'll speak about it. It's coming up in the section we speak about the last individual. Okay? So it'll be a global call about the Mahdi appearing, which will be perceptible and understood by every single person. The wiping out of Harasta, which is in northeast Damascus, a city, and an increase in earthquakes, which subhanAllah, it's Bayyin Zahir in our time. And when we spoke about, remember last week, what did we speak about? When the Dajjal asked Tamim ad-Dari, the first signs he's asking about were ecological, environmental signs, which again, it's pertinent to our time. Okay? And then the last thing we have on there is what? Is the appearance of Sufyani. Okay? So in the books of Ahadith, which speak about the context of the Mahdi, they speak about individuals. They say Al-Abqa, right? They say Ashab, A'raj, Harith, Mansur, these figures which will appear predominantly across the Arabian Peninsula, right? Wreaking quote unquote havoc and vying for power. From amongst these individuals is Sufyani. And Sufyani, Al-Abqa, Al-Ashab, Al-A'raj, these are all alqab. These are all titles. Okay? So we say Sufyani, it's not his name. Okay? He's Sufyani by virtue of him being what? He's from the lineage of Khalid ibn Walid and Yazid ibn Abu Sufyan. Okay, the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So his lineage will go back to Abu Sufyan. So he's Sufyani from that aspect. But his name is not Sufyani. Okay? And again, they describe his physical attributes, his physical disposition. So they say that he has like the marks of Judri, like the effects of, you know, when someone had like smallpox or chicken pox, the pox that they left. So you'll physically know him by his face that he'll have these marks. وَفِي عَيْنِهِ نُقْطَةُ الْبَيْضَى, and in one of his eyes is a white, like a speckle or a dot. Dakhm, he's quite large in relation to his physical stature. He comes forth from Damascus or in and around Damascus. Because some ahadith say that he'll come forth from Damascus, some say Wadi al-Yabis. Wadi al-Yabis, the valley of Yabis is where? It's in Jordan. Okay? Al-Muhim, he emanates from Sham. And he's someone who's a corrupt individual. All these individuals are concerned with what? Usurping power, taking control of land. Right? And so he's a corrupt individual. Now, 3 nights in a row, he sees a dream saying, now it's time for you to come forth. Come forth, come forth. And so he wakes up and he's confused about the dream. On the 3rd night, he'll say, come forth and come to the door of your house. So he wakes up, he comes to the door of his house, and there's people at his door. And they say, what? Nahnu ashabuk. We are your comrades. And now he will now take control over the peninsula, wages war, and takes control over the peninsula. So he takes control of Egypt, beating Ashab. Like I said, Ashab's not a name. It means like reddish, ruddy in complexion. Yeah. He takes Al-Abqa. Abqa means what? Speckled. Again, these are individuals who will what? Dominate in relation to martial engagement. He takes Al-A'raj. Al-A'raj literally means someone who's hobbled. Okay, so we don't know the names of these individuals, save that we have descriptions of them. Even in one hadith, he's referred to as what? Saddam. Right? What does Saddam mean? Sadma in Arabic is like a calamity. You know, the Prophet said what? As-sabr inda sadmatul ula. Your patience should be reflected at first calamity. Right? Saddam, fa'al, is literally someone who causes destruction. Right? That's, you know, so don't name your children Saddam and question those that name their children. I said the names of Muslim leaders are, you know, Gaddafi, Muammar al-Gaddafi. What does Gaddafi mean? Qadhaf is still that in common in modern Arabic. Qadh is what? Carpet bombing. So the Qadhaf is the one who bombs, right? Saddam is the one who brings about destruction and calamity. It's foolish, isn't it? Likulli ism musamma, the Arabs say. Everyone has a portion of their name, right? Hence, name your children with good names. And so some ahadith is called Fayati of Saddam in relation to what? Sufyani, right? Yusaddim, meaning he will destroy those who come before him. And so these are titles, right? Even in a hadith, because it was, you know, certain hadiths, you read them and I wonder what the companions thought, because it doesn't, you can't see the correlation. So there's a hadith by Sa'id ibn Musayyib, who was one of the great muhaddithin of our tradition. And he says that the beginning of the fitna is going to be in Sham. Sham it's what? It's Syria, Palestine, Jordan, and Iraq, right? But Sham ordinarily is known particularly as what's called as what? Greater Syria, but it's known as Syria, right? And so Sa'id ibn Musayyib, who brings a hadith that يكون أول الفتنة في الشام وأولها لعب الصبيان, and the beginning part of it, the inception of it is what? Is children playing, right? Kids playing. Hatta, and it continues until what? Until the emergence of the Mahdī. Meaning, again, things in succession. So when you hear the hadith, what does that even mean? The playing of children, right? How did in our time we saw, for example, what's known as the Nahda, the uprising in the Muslim world, started with what? Kids graffitiing the wall in Dar'a, didn't it? 15 children, because they put graffiti things against the ruling polity there, right? That was the beginning of the fitna. That was the beginning of the tribulation, right? I'm not saying that therefore is a direct correlation between what's going to happen and the calling of the Mahdi. But just as we saw that the Dajjal has 30, some say 70 precursors, isn't it? Yeah, before the Dajjal manifests. Likewise, these things are, let's call them dry runs. Yeah, that things that you should be again noticing those signs. Because the hadith on the outward, that what's the playing of children got to do with the emergence of the Mahdi or the fitna, beginning of the trial and the tribulation. Okay, so Sufyani comes, he takes the majority of the peninsula. Okay, he comes, he takes the majority of the peninsula, and now he kills anyone who challenges him until what happens? Until he believes he has dominion over the whole peninsula, and then the hadith says Yufsidu fil ard, right? Like I said, he's an extremely corrupt individual. Okay, causes corruption in the land, وَيُظْهِرَ الْكُفْرِ, and brings forth disbelief, hatta until the hadith says he to Jami Naharan fi Masjid Dimash, that he has illicit relations with a woman in one of the mosques of Damascus. That's how corrupt this individual is. Okay, and the hadith goes into some detail in that regard. But what happens is that when he's having illicit relations in the mosque with a woman, someone enters upon him and says, "Fear God." Akafarta ba'da iman, meaning have you renounced your faith after being a person outwardly, because obviously it's kufr inwardly, but outwardly a person of faith. And so he says that he yadrib unaqahu, so he kills him dead then and there in the mosque. Okay, it's at that point that we get number 6 on here. Okay, so he's taken the peninsula, he causes and sows corruption until he does that heinous act in one of the mosques of Damascus. Then then you hear, ayyuhan nas, O mankind, inna allaha qad qata ankum al-jabbarin. The time has come now for Allah to take care of the tyrants, the jabbarin, wal munafiqin wa ash'a'ihim, and the people of hypocrisy and those who resemble them. وَوَلَّاكُمْ خَيْرُ أُمَّتِي Muhammad. And he has placed amongst you now the leader, the best from the ummah of Muhammad. فَأَلْحَقُوهُ بِمَكَّةِ. So go and seek him out in Mecca. فَإِنَّهُ الْمَهْدِي, because he is the Mahdi. وَإِسْمَهُ أَحْمَدِ ibn Abdullah. And his name is Ahmad ibn Abdullah. We said there's difference of opinion as to his name, Muhammad, or is it Ahmad? This is the call that everyone will hear, right? Whether you understand Arabic, whatever your understanding of your language, you're going to hear that call. Okay. Some people may think of no faith, it's just it's background in someone's radio or something. But people of faith, again, people of faith that know the signs, right? Study the signs. Now that's something meaningful to them. And so the proclamation happens. Now, and so they say 7 of the ulama, 7 of the scholars, or some say 313. Or there's a hadith they say each 7 of the ulama min baladin shatta, from across the globe, each one has 313 representing them, and each one of those 313 has many people representing them, right? So these 7 scholars, they know that the time has come to now seek out and give the bay'ah, the pledge of allegiance to the Mahdi. And so they come in a year when the Hajj is taking place. But the hadith says that during the Hajj when it's taking place, there's no Amir. There's no one leading the Hajj. And so there's, again, because of the nature of the world at that time, there's much blood that is spilled in the Kaaba at the Jamrat al-Aqabat al-Ula, at the main stoning station, that many people will lose their lives. There'll be killing taking place during Hajj, right? During Hajj, this killing will take place. And so they say that 7 of the ulama, they come from afaq in shatta, from all diverse lands, to give the bay'ah, to give the pledge of allegiance to the Mahdi. And so they come and they come across him first, because they said that Mahdi has disappearances, right? So they first come to him and they say that, are you so and so, the son of so and so? And he says, Ana rajul min ansar, I'm just like an ordinary Muslim, right? So then yanfalat minhum, then he disappears. So they go to the Ahl al-Khibra, again the ulama, the Salihin, who know who he is. and they say, look, we came across so-and-so, was he so-and-so? And they say, yes, he's the one that you're after, but then he's gone off to Medina. They come to Medina, he's come back to Mecca. They come back to Mecca again to give him what? To give him the bay'ah. And they say what? They say that Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. They impress upon him now. They impress upon him to take the pledge of allegiance, saying what? That our sin and our lives now are predicated upon you taking the pledge of allegiance. Meaning, if you don't do this, that's it. There's going to be even worse killing and the like. And they say, we give you the bay'ah to take care of Sufyani, first and foremost, to take this tyrant who's taking so much illicit killing across the Muslim world. And so they place their hands in his hands, and he's between, they say, between the Rukn and the Kaaba. Sorry, he's between the Rukn and Maqam. That's an error. It's just he's at the Rukn of the Kaaba, but he's between the Rukn and Maqam Ibrahim. Okay? Which Rukn is that then? It could be, say that again? The Yemeni is the one on the other side. So the Yemeni comes to the black stone. The black stone to the other, there's two Shami corners. Between there is the Maqam Ibrahim. So it could be the Rukn where the black stone is, or it could be the Rukn of what's known as the Shami corner, because that's in between those two Rukns is what? The Maqam of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay, so he's between there, and they're given the Pledge of Allegiance just before Isha. They say again, he goes away and he comes back. What? When he comes back after accepting the pledge, they say that he has the raya, the banner of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has the qamis, the shirt of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he has the sword of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? It's on. Yeah? Like I said, he comes with the sword. It's a very trying time. But he's wearing the shirt of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has the raya, the banner of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he has one of the blessed swords of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَيُصَلِّي الْإِشَاء بِالنَّاسِ. So then he leads the people in prayer of Isha, and he gives a khutbah, وَيُطُولُ فِي الْخُطْبَةِ, and he gives a long sermon, calling people to what they should be upon. Right? Now when he calls them to what they should be upon now, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, now they say that people who are representing the seven, now they emerge, right? I.e. the people of the Mahdī. Like we said, the Dajjal has his people, right? The Dajjal has his people, and the Dajjal has his people now. Just as the Mahdī has his people, and he has his people now. But the people of the Mahdī, as the Prophet said, Fustatan, two groups of people. I.e. how will the people of the Mahdī emerge? They say, Fustatun nifaqun fi qulubihim la iman. Let there be a group of people with hypocrisy infusing their heart with no faith. Wa fustatun iman fi qulubihim wa la nifaq. And there will be a group of people whose hearts will have no shade of hypocrisy, and they are people of absolute iman. Right? Remember we brought this up whenever we brought it up, that we asked our teacher, what does it mean? Because the majority of our hearts are what? An admixture, aren't they? We hope that we have predominance of faith, but we have shades of hypocrisy. Right? They say that whatever is dominant in your heart will blot out the rest. That if you're a person of iman, it will wipe out any type of hypocrisy. And God forbid, if what's dominant in one's heart is hypocrisy, it will remove any traces of faith in and of itself. Right? So the people of the Mahdī is of the second type. Iman in their hearts, no hypocrisy whatsoever. And the hadith goes to describe them as what? Ruhbanun bil-layl, usudun bin-nahar. That the ruhban is literally the word for a monk. What it means is what? These are ascetics by night, praying by night, usudun bin-nahar, and lions by day. Right? It speaks about who? La ilaha illallah Rasulullah. That the Prophet ﷺ, it goes, إِذَا سَمِعْتُمْ بِرَايَاتِ السَّوْدَى. When you hear about the black flags emerge from where? Khurasan. Right? فَأَتُوهَا وَلَوْ حَبًّا عَلَى الثَّلْجِ. Come to these people and support them, even if you have to crawl over ice to get to them. Because that's the army of who? That's the army of the Mahdī. Right? The black flags from Khurasan. So when they describe the individuals that are around the Mahdī, again, they don't come out of a vacuum. Just as the Mahdī is being prepared by the men of Allah, the people of the Mahdī are being prepared by the men of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And from amongst those people are what? The people who hold the black flag bearers of Khurasan, Likewise, they're ruhbanu bil-layl, people who are assiduous worshippers by night. Usudun bin nahar, lions by day. And so they say Sufyan, now he becomes aware of what the pledge that's taken place at the Kaaba. So he dispatches an army to go and deal with them. When the army arrives in Mecca, the Mahdi's armies have moved off, right? They moved off towards a different region. So they say that the army, Sufyan is not there, but his army wages war with the people that are there, and they take control of that region. They take control of that region as well. Until what? Until the armies of Sufyani and the armies of the Dajjal meet, right? And here they say that there's bloodshed that you've never seen before, right? Bloodshed that you've never seen before. They describe the horses as what? Wading through blood ila arsaghiha, right? Up until, like, if a horse is on its all fours, blood up to here. Imagine rivers of blood, right? We wouldn't even see that in a movie. That you're literally swimming through blood by virtue of the war that takes place, right? They speak about the tayr, the birds. They say that the birds that are flying on the hamish, which is like the margins of war, that they will drop down dead, right? What does that mean? Wallahu alam, in relation to it shows us what the intensity of that type of war, that you're wading through blood and that birds are dropping dead from the sky by virtue of the intensity of what that war will beget. And so he engages with Sufyani, and then he's captured as a captive, and then he's killed, right? And that's the conclusion of Sufyan. They say that they give the description that he's killed at a rock near a church in the depth of a particular valley at a specific mountain. So this is in and around Greater Syria that this war takes place. Okay, once the Mahdi has dealt with Sufyani, then this takes place. Malhamat al-Kubra is known as the Great War.
Sorry, Sheikh, so the Mahdi, the army was the Mahdi's army and the Sufyani's fighting, right?
Yes. So Sufyani, when he hears about the Bay'ah, he dispatches an army to Mecca to go and fight the Mahdi. When they arrive in Mecca, the Mahdi is moved off, right? And his people are with him. Save there's certain Muslims there who wage war with Sufyani's army, not Sufyani, he's not there. They kill those people and take control of that region. Yeah. But then where Sufyani is and the Mahdi, the armies meet in Greater Syria. And then they wage war. And that's the war where it's bloodshed. Likewise, the same descriptions about the bloodshed take place here. Right? The war with Europe, with the Europeans.
Sorry, is it Mahdi is it by Mahdi's hand that Sufyan's killed?
Yes. Yeah. Bismillah.
Also, is there any connection or not connection, but the number there, the 313, which was the same number of Badr?
Yeah, and
Beginning of Islam and now the end.
Yeah,
of the end.
the 313. It's clear that's the people of Badr, and so there's an analogy between the 313 because there's one hadith where they say that the 313 that wage the specific 313 which wages war ala darbi ahl Badr, on the way of the people of Badr, inwardly and outwardly. Sahih. Okay. So then after he's killed Sufyani, the people of the Mahdi and the Europeans, they enter into a hudna, like a treaty. Okay, and the treaty lasts for 9 years, and they wage war together against common enemies. Okay, after or during this 9-year treaty, they say that there's an altercation that takes place, in that there's a soldier from the Europeans, and when they win a particular war, he says "Ghalaba as-salib," meaning the cross is victorious, right? And the Muslim hear this and he says "Bal ghalaba Allah," rather it's Allah who is victorious. So they get into an altercation, and then the Muslim breaks the cross of that individual. He then ends up killing the Muslim. The small band of Muslims that are there come to defend him, and then they're surrounded, and Allah blesses each of them with shahada. So they're taken now they're killed by the European army that they're alongside them. Okay. Thereafter, the hudna, now the treaty is what? The treaty is broken, right? La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah. And in another narration, what happens is that when they're supposed to allot the spoils of war, so they wage war together, they acquire spoils, the Europeans say to the Muslims, qasamna, give us some of the spoils. So they give them some of the spoils and some of the captives of war, right? From the people who are of disbelief. And there's some that are left over who are from the Muslims. So they say, give us some of the captives from the Muslims. And they say, never. We will never submit Muslim captives over to you. So they say, based on this, you've broken the treaty. So again, they start to go to war. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Now,
they just fighting what other Europeans or other nations? It doesn't say.
they mention Al-Faris, which is within in Greater Persia. So that's one specific war that they mentioned that both of them engaged with together amongst the Persians. And then the others mentioned that they wage war together against common enemies. But they don't. Those hadith don't specify who particularly those enemies are. And so again, this war is so intense now. So the armies of the Mahdi, again, they wage war on Europe. And again, they call this Malhamatul Kubra. Remember we said Malhama. What does it mean? We said this last week, did we not?
Much bloodshed, intense.
Exactly. Malhama comes from the word laham, meat, dead bodies. So there's we call them great wars. So the Prophet said, Ana Nabi al-Malahim. I am the Prophet of Malahim. Right? From laham. Because of the amount of dead bodies that will be found in these types of engagements. So again, the intensity of this war is so much blood is shed that the Muslims will say, what? Is this the man that the Prophet spoke to us about? Meaning this Rahmah. Yeah? Is he from the children of Fatima? Right? It's a time of intense war. And just as the Prophet suffered, quote unquote, I say here, quote unquote loss, with the likes of Uhud and the like, do you think that the Mahdi is not going to suffer loss? He's not more beloved to Allah than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The loss of life, the loss of blood, the loss of war, the loss of campaigns that he will suffer in the overarching story of war, no doubt he'll be victorious. But he will suffer because they say that there's one, in relation to this war, this is the hadith of what? That when he comes forth now, for whatever reason known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they divide the army into three. The hadith divides the army into three. A third of them abandon the Mahdi when he's about to engage war with Europe. A third. Right? That's not a small amount. Because even where they say that the bulk of the war takes place in Damascus, one of the hadith which mentions what the Great War. And when they mention the numbers, the companions question the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning, how can Damascus encompass these great numbers? And the Prophet said in Hadith, what he goes, it encompasses those beings just as the womb expands to embrace the child. Right? Meaning, where's our parallel for this in our yearly calendar? Hajj. Right? Sometimes it does not make sense to you how all these people exist in this space. Particularly if you visited at times when people aren't there. Like, how can you get 3 million people like in them? How are these people here? Is ittisa, right? It expands to literally embrace those people. Likewise, in relation to the numbers we're speaking about here, right? The companions question, how can Damascus encompass from the numbers that are mentioned in terms of the vastness of the army, all of those people? And the Prophet said, Tattasi', Damascus will expand, just as the womb expands to hold a child. And so now from this expansion and all of these individuals which are waging war, what happens? A third abandon him. A third. And the hadith says what? Allah will never look to those people again. What does it mean? Those people are doomed. Right? Doomed in a way that when we say Allah will not, when we say, God forbid, if someone says la'ana, what does la'ana mean? It literally means to be cast away, cast aside. So it's like when we say that God forbid and safeguard everyone, that the la'an of Allah, right? It means that these people have been, that's it. There's no redemption for them. So a third will abandon him. A third are blessed with what's shahada. So a third of that army will be martyred. And then a third Allah will grant victory to. Okay? So that's the Malhamatul Kubra, the great war which takes place with Europe. And they speak about Constantinople, the opening of Constantinople, that 300,000 men will come from Constantinople. They speak about Yemen, alf, 1 million people from the Yemen will come and support. These are people of the Mahdi. right? And then here we speak about the dominion of the Mahdi. Okay, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says what? Malik al-Ard Arba. The kings of this earth are four. Kafiran wa mu'minan. Two of them were disbelievers and two of them were, meaning which two individuals had dominion from the east to the west? Two were non-believers and two were believers. Okay. Amma al-mu'minan for Dhul Qarnayn and Sulaiman alayhi salam. As for the believers, it was Dhul Qarnayn, which some hold to be Alexander the Great, and the other was Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam. And as for the disbelievers, Nimrod, the Pharaoh Nimrod, or Bakht Nasr, which is Nebuchadnezzar. Right? Those two people from the disbelieving folk held dominion. And there'll be one more who's going to be the fifth, and it's the Mahdi. So he's one of those individuals which will what? Have dominion over the east to the west. Okay? He takes up residence now in Jerusalem, right? And after now is the lessons we took before. Now it's the emergence of who? Now it's the emergence of the one-eyed imposter. Okay? I just wanted to give like a synopsis, which I thought was good to know. You don't have to necessarily write this down, we'll just read it. Okay? Imam Barzanji says what? He goes that the Mahdi Muhammad ibn Abdullah is adherent to the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no sunnah save that he embodies it, personifies it, and acts upon it. He engages in great wars and he wages war upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has dominion over the earth in the same vein as Dhul Qarnayn and Sulaiman alayhi salam. He breaks the cross, kills the swine, and fills the earth with justice at a time when it was replete with oppression and injustice. He distributes wealth equitably with no personal concern for wealth, and the inhabitants of earth, including the animal kingdom and heaven, are pleased with him, and the earth experiences a happiness and riches never experienced before. Tamam, inshallah. We're going to stop here. Is there any questions?
Is it also believed that Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam would also do things like that, break the cross, kill the swine? Or is they both do it, or only one?
Yeah, no. The hadith where there's a crossover, there's no religious or logical reason for them both to not do it. So there's a crossover in relation to that's fine for them both to do it as well, and because they exist at the same time. Inshallah, next week we're going to speak about Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. Inshallah. Did I ban people putting down anonymous attendees? I think that was a condition that you have to. This is a reason for you to put down anonymous attendee. Did you say what was the situation? Yeah, that's right. Salam. When they speak about horses, is it literal fruit? Yes. So this is a question that comes up a lot when we speak about sword and horses and the like. Right? Is it literal? Or is it like an analogy for weaponry? Okay. Allah knows better. My opinion, based on what we heard from our teachers, is that it will return back to the time of horses, bows, arrows, swords, and the like, right? Because how they, firstly, we said that the Mahdi comes out with what? With the sword of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not a symbolic gesture, okay? Secondly, just as an aside, we've done this in lessons during the Hadith lessons, speaking about the nature of what? Peak oil. Yeah, that's just a reality that oil is diminishing. Right? No oil, no nothing. You can't transport anything, you can't run anything. Yeah, I believe it's going to go back to that time of horses, arrows, swords, and the like. Wallahu alam. And that's what we heard from our teachers as well. Not about peak oil, about that it will go back to the times where it's not an analogy of military strength by using weaponry and the like, but it's actually those types of instruments and tools that will be used. La ilaha illallah. Some sisters say that this in 2024 there's a prediction of the lunar eclipse approximately on the 15th and then a solar eclipse at the end. Yeah, but that could be a sign based on what? The two eclipses that take place, but we said two lunar eclipses. Where is this description from Mahdi and his followers? Where is this description? I told you from the books that we've just taken. So the book that we're using primarily, there's two books. One's called Kitab al-Fitan by Nu'aym ibn Hammad, who was the teacher of Imam al-Bukhari, which is a 2-volume work, and then there's a book by Imam al-Barzanji, which is just, this is the one here that you got your slide up here now, called al-Isha'a li Ashrat as-Sa'a, the rays of light upon the end of time. Oh my God. What are women doing at this time? La ilaha illallah. They're going to be cooking. And they're going to be barefoot and pregnant. Okay? You can quote me on that one. Good. Do I look like I care? This is related somewhat. This is unrelated. There's a lot of anonymous attendees here. You could be the police for all I know. Someone related is saying that Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq saying that those who named Muhammad will be called on Yawm al-Qiyamah and into Jannah because of their name. Is this true? This doesn't make sense to me, given that people like Muhammad subhanallah. Wallahu alam. I don't know. If there's a tradition now, I don't know. All of these things are taken with understandings. No doubt Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq was from the Imams. The question is basically that there's someone related to saying, they say that Ja'far as-Sadiq said that anyone who's called Muhammad on the Day of Judgment will enter paradise solely by virtue of the name. And they said it doesn't make sense. And the anonymous attendee, mentioned some Muhammad, which could be problematic. So I don't know of that tradition, but all of those things have to be taken with context. So first and foremost, we'll be speaking about the Sunnis of that understanding, but I'd have to see the Hadith to understand the context behind it. Yes. So forgive us. You said you okay? Yeah. Just if you don't mind, send another email, and I'll ensure that you get what you've asked for. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, we'll stop here. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, a quick one about the madhabs.
Yes.
Could you elaborate a bit? As in, like, no madhabs, so why would it get to that situation?
Because he's the madhab, right? Meaning religion now is determined in terms of what's halal and haram by him and those who he educates, right? It's right that he is inspired by God. Yeah, he discerns him from, like I said, we cannot say that the likes of the great Imams of the schools were not connected to Allah. Okay, no doubt they were, but obviously they had difference in relation to what is deemed lawful, unlawful, in the wider spectrum what fiqh is. Yeah, when he comes, he's it. He's the source of religion, right? He's the Khalifa of the Prophet on this earth. So there's no difference of opinion as to what's the ruling on such and such. He's the resource. He is it. That's what it means. You still look confused though. It's because you're Hanafi. Yeah, the Shafis are not confused at all. Yeah, we're not confused at all.
He's looking for where's the dalil, right?
Is it the Hanafi is Wabi?
Is that the same for spiritual orders, Sheikh, or is that
Sorry?
is that the same for spiritual orders? Would he be of a particular tariqah that exists currently, or would it be a new?
No, exactly. He's not going to be part of a tariqah. He's not going to be part of a spiritual order. He is it. He is the spiritual resource. He is the religious resource. We said that the people around it are people of hearts, right? That the war cry of the people of the Mahdī when a third of the army fall into the sea is what? La ilaha illallah, right? And it's the La ilaha illallah emanates from where? From here, that's going to cause a third of the enemy to just fall into the sea. Yeah, so these are spiritual beings that are around him, and he is the spiritual head of that.
There's no revelation, is there? That's how it says it's what. Ilham
Of course, there's no revelation. The Hanafis, man. No, ilham, absolutely, like you said, he's inspired by God, right? But la nabiyya ba'di, there's no prophet after me. A condition of prophecy is to receive revelation. Yeah? So there's no, like Khidr, alayhi salam. Right? He's inspired by God, isn't he? Right? He exists now, does he not? It's not revelation. There's inspiration from Allah. Likewise, the Mahdī.
Sheikh, is that?
Yes, Bismillah.
So it's interesting you picked up on that topic because I was thinking about it. So maybe we could sit next to each other. So
I would say move. That would be my advice. And that's just generally in life.
I do have a practical question actually, because in my upbringing I came across different groups of Islam, Sunni, Salafi, Muslim Brotherhoods, Azhari in Egypt, the Sufis. And what broke my heart is that in each group I was connected. I could feel the spirituality of Islam.
Allahu Akbar.
Even with the Salafis.
Allahu
We talk
Akbar.
about the fiqh, and I feel so connected. But
MashaAllah.
what broke my heart is that each group would speak down in the other group.
Yeah.
And ideally I would pick and choose from each group what fits in with what I see, but that never came along in terms of bringing people from each group together.
Mm.
So then my question practically is, as a modern Muslim now, what do? You have to surround yourself with the right people.
Mm.
And you can't pick and choose,
Mm.
unfortunately, which I did what I would like to do.
Right.
You can't bring one person from this group to that group in one place.
Mm.
You won't fit in. And we speak badly to each other.
Mm.
So my question is, what do you do with that?
I mean,
Right, you
it's
surround you with the right people.
ordinarily don't be around people who are going to speak ill of others. Okay, that's not healthy for your heart, your soul, or your being. Yeah. In terms of who you should follow, kunu ma sawal a'zam, the Prophet ﷺ said, be with the majority of group. The majority of Sunni Sunnis, it's clear in relation to the people of madhahib and people of theology. Those things have been clear time immemorial, sanad going back to the Prophet ﷺ. Doesn't mean we're a perfect group, right? But people are going to speak ill about something, but also discern between what? People who are clarifying erroneous belief, okay, because there are people who have erroneous belief. Not everyone that says La ilaha illallah Rasulullah is a person of uprightness that knows their tradition. But people who speak ill about people, stay away from that. It's to no avail. It's a waste of time. But
I haven't come across any. When I say speak ill, like for example, they would say, the Sunni would say, no, he shaved his beard, so I'm not going to follow him. It's a silly thing to say. The Sufi would say, the Salafis don't love Prophet as we do. So they don't like speak ill in a very bad way, but
Yeah.
you have this element, you know what I mean? So you end up very confused as an individual Muslim in terms of what you do. It's either you leave them all or you pick.
I mean, the Prophet said, "Unzur man ta'khudh hadha ad-din, fa'innahu al-ilm. Khudh min alladhina istaqamu." Okay, that look to who you take this religion from, because you look to you take this knowledge from, fa'innahu ad-din. This is religion. Khudh min alladhina istaqamu. Take from those who are upright. Okay, alladhina, man is for what? Human beings. So first and foremost, you can't take knowledge from books, and so people who take the knowledge from books, don't follow them. Right? Take from those who have taken from men that have a son going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so that's just a clear indication of where and how we take knowledge. Right? The other thing is, engage your Lord to place you amongst people who will be good for you. You knock on his door, he's not going to leave you outside. Right? Forget about me and definitely him.
He took me in his home. So
Oh dear. See, that's where it all started to go wrong, isn't it? That's where the trouble started. Yeah, we know we found the source. We found the source of the problems, right? No, but meaning engage your Lord. Ask Allah to place you in places which are going to be healing for your heart, help you develop. He's not going to leave you outside. Right? We ask Allah, is he gonna forget about you if you're sincere? No doubt. We may have to go through certain phases, which many of us I'm sure have been through, in terms of engaging different people. But if you're sincere, Allah will place you where you're supposed to be and have a good opinion of everyone. But when it comes to clear erroneous belief, no, then that has to be spoken out against, right? Which is absolute at odds, contrast with the tradition of our, with the sunnah of our tradition going back to time immemorial, 1400 years. Allah make it easy. I'm going to stop you now because we need to start. Sheikh Jamal's waiting to join, so no break.